So, within the Pokemon world, there is one team that has always been at the top usually, and that team is Team Rocket, which is the long-standing definitive evil organization of the Pokemon universe. They have shown up several times and have had loads of crazy antics and crimes in their pretty long history, to be honest. And today I wanted to specifically take a look at the 10 random facts about Team Rocket within Pokemon. Let's get started. At number 10, did you actually know that Team Rocket is a family business? So you might already know that Giovanni is the leader of Team Rocket. It may also already know that Silver is Giovanni's son. However, did you know that Team Rocket as an organization is a family business? See, before Giovanni took over the organization, Team Rocket was actually ran by someone else, that being Madame Boss, a character that has barely ever shown up in Pokemon media whatsoever, but is basically confirmed to be Giovanni's mother, and the former boss of Team Rocket, who gave the reins of the business to her son Giovanni after she decided to basically, end her villainous career. But she would talk about him specifically being a wimp as a kid, so kind of strange to imagine he turned into the biggest villain in all of Pokemon, hands down. So yeah, it's somewhat of a family business. Don't know if you knew that, but it's a cool fact. At number 9, we have another topic of family. So since we are on the topic of family members within Team Rocket, I guess next up is the fact that, did you know Jessie's mother was actually part of Team Rocket as well? Which is interesting, as there is loads of backstory to Jessie, beyond just that one simple fact. There's loads more you can talk about Jessie herself. However, what is there to say about her mother? Well, she went by the name Miyamoto, and she was actually sent out to basically in search of the mythical Pokemon Mew after she herself had discovered the fossil of a different Mew, which she sent, proof of over to Giovanni. And this all basically led to, the Mewtwo's Origin movie as well, or, the Mewtwo's Origin thingy, as well as Mewtwo Strikes Back events happening. But on her search for the mythical Pokemon, she actually encountered it in the mountains, and she was lost after a blizzard caused a avalanche, which carried Miyamoto away, and after this point, nothing more is known about her fate. We don't know if she, if her life ended, or if she survived the avalanche. There's no information really telling us what actually happened to her at this point, but it's a kind of strange fact that her mother, was essentially also a villainous grunt working for Giovanni and Team Rocket, and then Jessie continues, I guess, her legacy in that sense. It's kind of strange, isn't it? Really odd, but hey, it happened, and that's that. Let's go to the next one. Next up, Gym Leaders at Kanto were actually part of Team Rocket in the manga. Something that I find to be super interesting, if I'm going to be honest. So 5 out of the 8 Gym Leaders, which you run across in the region of Kanto, from red, blue, yellow, green, as well as some of the subsequent releases, the remakes and stuff, were actually straight up part of Team Rocket, by the way. In the Pokemon Adventures manga, they were specifically part of it. So the Gym Leaders who were part of Team Rocket specifically were Lieutenant Surge, Koga, Sabrina, and of course Blaine. Then there's also Giovanni, of course, which we can't forget about, but all these people are Gym Leaders in the games, but in the manga they actually served as somewhat the heads of Team Rocket, and in the manga they all worked directly under their big boss Giovanni. Blaine also, interestingly, was actually a scientist for Team Rocket, and it does seem you can see that from its early design. He was also involved with the whole Mewtwo creation project, which it makes sense considering the mansion and stuff, where Mewtwo was created underneath the ground or whatever, is literally on Cinnabar and whatnot where he is. So when you think about it, it all kind of aligns and makes sense. So he eventually ended up leaving actually Team Rocket and went off and just became a normal gym leader, I guess, and whatnot. But at one point he was part of their team, as well as the other people that we talked about here, which really is strange when you think about it, that they were all part of Team Rocket, which you can kind of see in the kind of original approach of the games, I guess. So at number 7, Team Rocket is actually the only villainous team in Pokemon to not have anything to do with their respective game versions' mascots. So Red Blue, that's Pokemon on there like Charizard and Blastoise or whatever, but they have nothing to do with those, whereas most other games are different, right? Which is kind of interesting when you think about it. But in the same way, they're also the only villainous team that has yet to try and use a legendary Pokemon to achieve their goals in the games. Okay, we're not counting the manga when we say that, but in the games. However, in the anime, Team Rocket has tried to obtain the most legendary Pokemon on their own than anybody else, by specifically Jessie and James doing most of it. basically the same way all other villainous team are trying to do it, but they have done it the most. And in the Pokemon Adventures manga, they did have their plans and eventually succeeded in catching specifically something like Articuno, Zapdos, and Moltres, but those were then released after some weird stuff happened there. Then also they caught, like, you know, try to catch Mew to create Mewtwo. Then in Gold and Silver, as well as the Crystal chapters, their mission included catching Ho-Oh, Lugia, and Celebi, and in Fire Red Leaf Green chapters, their mission was to capture Deoxys. In Heart Gold Soul Silver chapters, their mission was to capture Arceus and create Dialga, Palkia, and Giratina. So they definitely have like loads of stuff they've tried to do. They're definitely ambitious within the manga, at least, right, to catch legendaries in like several different places, regions, etc. But it's mostly just within the realm of the manga, right? It doesn't seem to seep into the games or into the anime much beyond what Jesse and James do. But if you actually look at the actual organization of Team Rocket, you don't really see them doing too much. Like, they're kind of just doing nothing most of the time. So at number 6, Team Rocket's uniforms are actually made to vaguely resemble Bosozoku uniforms, and Bosozoku is basically a biker gang like subculture from Japan, which cropped up in like the 1950s. The Bosozoku like style traditionally involves them wearing like boiler suits similar to what you would see, like, you know, like manual laborers wear and that sort of stuff, and also like military leather jackets, as well as like wearing baggy pants and tall boots. So basically Team Rocket is somewhat, like, I guess, based, or inspiration seems to have been taken, like seemingly have been taken from these real Japanese biker gangs in terms of like the outfits and all that, to kind of resemble what you see from them into Team Rocket's outfits, which is kind of cool if I'm going to be honest. I like those like real world connections that exist within Pokemon. And number 5, did you know that Team Rocket are also the most present villain organization in all of Pokemon, as they're present in several regions and places, that being Kanto, Johto, and the Sevi Islands within the video games, but also in the anime, they have operatives in the Orange Islands and also in Unova, as well as it being implied that they have operatives in Hoenn and Sinnoh after those like regions' respective villainous organizations had ended up disbanding, which basically would imply that they've got people all over the place, which is kind of cool when you consider it, because all the other like evil teams mostly just disband after the journeys of you know, after Ash or either you as our player in the video games play through. Usually those teams are gone afterwards, whereas in this case Team Rocket seems to want to spread its like grubby little hands all over the place, and that's noticeable from what you see them do. And they've also been in Ultra Sun and Moon, you know, if you remember that. And talking about Ultra Sun and Moon, that takes us to number 4. See, Team Rocket is the only team to actually get a rebranding in the Pokemon universe and return in a future installment, and that is pretty cool. That being specifically with Generation 7's Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, where Giovanni returns with a new version of Team Rocket called Rainbow Rocket, an organization which is basically a Team Rocket, but includes also other villains from like other Pokemon games in other regions that are also from alternate timelines, I guess, which is so interesting, as he actually is able to bring along like former enemies of his, right, and former competitors to use against everyone else as a way to get world domination. Like, this guy is straight up crazy for trying to achieve this, but it is honestly one of the coolest things ever. Like, this attempt of like trying to take over the world is genuinely pretty cool, if I'm gonna be honest myself. So that's basically the general gist of that one. Let's go to the next one. So number 3 is a really strange one, but did you know that the Rocket part in Team Rocket's name actually is a acronym? And does actually stand for something. However, what it stands for is somewhat confusing. So Rocket, right, is an acronym for Raid on the City, Knock Out Evil Tusks. And I'm going to be honest, I have no clue what the last part means. Like, the first part makes sense somewhat, right? Raid on the City is logical, as they do raid several different cities in the video game, specifically in Kanto they do a lot of that, and also in like Heart Gold, Soul Silver, or Gold and Silver, etc., where they take over like Goldenrod and stuff. Like, yeah, that makes sense, that's logical. And then the second part, Knock Out, you know, could be knocking out the, you know, the competition, or taking over the area that they basically, you know, raided, you know, taking out the communications and stuff, and that sort of stuff. But the Evil Tusks part just makes no sense, as it doesn't really relate to any of the Pokemon from Gen 1, and on top of that, it just doesn't make much sense in general. However, Pokemon have suggested that it could mean, like, you know, or people rather, not Pokemon, people have suggested that it could have something to do with like staying frosty, or maybe showing your evil intentions by showing your evil tusks. Again, no clue, but a little bit of a strange fact, if I may say so myself. And also, this comes from the Adventures manga, so there may be a better reasoning for why they call it that within the Adventures manga. Again, I don't know. And number 2 is Jesse and James are actually the most successful Team Rocket members. This may sound weird, but apparently Team Rocket values like them as grunts, as apparently every time they have been sent to a specific region where Team Rocket has rivals, or like rival villains and rival teams, those teams have ended up disbanding or being destroyed, which is mostly only because of the fact that Ash and friends actually are in those areas in the anime and actually get rid of those evil teams on their journeys, while Team Rocket is mostly just there interrupting that journey. But because Giovanni is like none the wiser, it basically makes Jesse and James and Meowth look like they're actually succeeding in their work, which is kind of a strange fact when you think about it. It's like really odd, like they get rewarded for basically failing. So at number 1, did you know that Team Rocket has created several different Pokemon themselves? So yeah, strangely enough, you might be aware of Mewtwo as one of the Pokemon created by Team Rocket by using the DNA of the mythical Pokemon Mew. Like that one's like one most people know about, but Team Rocket has never relied as much on legendaries in the same way as other villainous teams, but they have meddled with legendaries and such in different media, and one of these things is a Pokemon that I plan on actually doing a whole video talking about in the future, which is Tufazir. Now Tufazir, which some of you may not know about, but basically this is actually one of the earliest cases of a fusion in Pokemon. Either way, what is Tufazir? Well, it's a fusion of Zapdos, Moltres, and Articuno, and was the backup plan for Team Rocket in case Mewtwo went wrong as a plan. The name Tufazir is basically mixing Thu is from Thunder, Fi is from Fire, and Zir is from Freezer, which makes sense considering what the types of the legendaries being fused together is. So yeah, a strange Pokemon, which if you want me to do a video covering more about it and talking about some of the weird stuff Team Rocket has done within the manga, as I love the Pokemon manga, I would love to talk about it more and some of the weird things you can find there. But for that, basically, you know, for me to do that, basically just let me know in the comment section down below and I will check it out and talk more about it in a new video. And yeah, that is the end of the video, guys. If you did enjoy it, then drop a like down below, make sure to subscribe, and of course, you know, I'll catch you all in the next one. Have yourselves a great day, and bye-bye, ladies and gentlemen.